I, Dara Kalima, the community poet, chat with folks who will speak on behalf of their respective communities. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this next guest. Like, I cannot tell you. I have been so hyped that, and I don't want to set any expectations because they already warned me that it may be a weird conversation, but it should be, and that'll be cool too. But I have been so hyped all week or all 2 weeks since they said yes to having this conversation with me that I'm just like, yay! So we're doing this interview and conversation. So, I mean, I've known this person for, let's not do math. I've known this person for a long time. They are such an awesome individual. They have an awesome skill set that is like awe-inspiring for me. It may terrify some of you, but for me, they have the best career set and skill set that in the world. So that all said, I'm going to stop saying stuff and I'm just going to ask this person to tell us their name.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Gindick.
Awesome. Hi, Mark.
Hi. I'm hyped up about this too. Let's go.
Okay, so Mark, tell us what are your pronouns?
He, him. Yep.
Awesome.
Got it. Check.
And it's cool. I've gotten a couple of interesting answers to that. So cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us about yourself, because I didn't tell people about you or anything. I don't ask for bios because I feel like bios are boring and stodgy, and then I can read them and fall asleep. But so who are you?
I feel like we are just apples from the same tree because we went to college together. Spoiler alert. So that's super fun. I'm an actor, clown, physical comedian. I make my living being a circus clown.
I told y'all. I'm so excited.
Right? Lots of people just signed off just now. They're like, oh, it's like circus clown. No, what? No.
So, but I told a friend yesterday that I was interviewing a clown, and they were like, "Okay, this is an episode I have to listen to because clowns terrify me, and so maybe this will help me get over that fear." So maybe people will be leaning in.
I hope so. Yeah, I think that the definition of what a clown is, I think what maybe people don't quite understand, and especially in America. So maybe we'll be able to clear that up, and those people who are clown phobic will no longer be clown phobic, because I bet you are fans of clowns and you don't even know it.
Okay. So before we even get into all of that, because I'm looking forward to getting into all of that. So yes. Before we get into all of that, because now you done open a whole can of worms. Because this is on behalf of, and we talk about the communities in which we are part of, which communities do you represent?
Yeah. So, man, I would say that we're all part of a million different communities, and that's what makes us rich humans. Obviously, the go-to community that I'm part of is the clown and circus community, which is a very small family. If you think about it, when you go on the road with the circus, it's like an extended family because you live and breathe and eat and work with them 24/7. So my circus family is very tight. My personal family, of course, is a community in itself. We support each other. My home, where I live right now, which is Croton on Hudson, I try to be as active as possible in that small little nice community of humans. I get a lot of people actually from the Manhattan or city or Brooklyn and Queens and such that are moving up into this area. So I feel like a lot of the artists and I lived in Astoria or Actoria for many years. And it felt like there's a community of actors and performers and artists that lived very close to me. And now I feel like we're all kind of migrating up to where I am right now. So if those who are looking in, I've got a great realtor in the Croton and Hudson. It's not a plug, but I feel like that's a strong community that I'm also part of. Yeah, I like to go to the gym, and maybe there's a community of people that we support each other and I'll see you at the gym tomorrow and that sort of thing.
You used to be into
Yeah.
martial arts. Are you still in that community at
Look
all?
at you, remember. I haven't done that for a long time. I grew up doing martial arts. I'm a second degree black belt, and it was a kind of a bonding thing I did with my dad.
Mm,
And my dad died when I was 19, and I kind of hung on a little bit longer because it was part of my life, and I started doing it when I was 8. As soon as my dad died, so it was kind of a kind of bonding thing that we did together. It was kind of like it was a little too painful, a little too not fun anymore. So I haven't done that for a long time. No.
okay. I mean, but you did bring a little bit of it into some of your sketches during COVID. I feel like there were like some fun made of it in some of your sketches. Am I not making that up? Am I making that
You're
up?
not making that up. You know,
Okay.
during COVID, as all our live performers were like, "What are we going to do with our lives now?" I started making stupid YouTube videos. What else are you going to do? And you know, for many years, my comic friends, my clown friends are always like, martial arts is such a part of your who you are. You should put it into your work." And I never could figure out how to make it funny, so I just kind of always pushed it to the side. And I just thought what was happening in the world during COVID with all this like misinformation going out there, I thought, wouldn't it be funny and fun if this was this character who thought he knew everything about everything, and he was going to give you a black belt in life and just give really horrible advice. And I think those are the videos that you were
Yes.
referring to.
I loved all those little videos. But
Thanks.
y'all don't understand. I am a huge fan of Mark. Like I'm a huge fan of the circus. If I knew that I could go back in life in time, and I tell people this all the time, if I could go back in time, one, I would either have had a job that supported the circus arts, or two, I would have been like a hula hoop artist. Because I actually really love doing hula hoop. I loved hula hooping as a kid. I won. This is like my claims to fame. I won a family competition for hula hooping for 10 minutes. Like I loved
Yes.
hula hooping. I did it all. Like I loved hula hooping. So I would have definitely, if I knew how to actually get into that, I would have been like, yes, that's a possible career. But that's like, you know, I didn't know that you could actually really join the circus. Like I was like,
Yeah.
that's a realistic thing. So I wish I
It's
could go back in life and do it again.
You are so lucky you didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
No, no, no. It's great. I'm so honored and blessed and lucky to be part of the circus community and do. I've never had a real job in my life, which you know, what else am I gonna do? So yeah, I ruined my life pretty early on, and now I'm a circus clown.
So so that all said, clearly we're specifically talking about the circus arts or even just clowning arts today, right? So
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
I'm super excited about that. But before we do that, like I told him, I warned him beforehand that I was going to break protocol and I'm going to read a poem because I am the community poet and that's is my show. So what? I'm going to do what I want to do. But I wrote a poem. What is this? In 2020, I helped start a school of poetry, and we had to do this assignment. We had to do this research. It was like one of the classes we were doing with research, and we had to do like a dream career. So that all said, I was like, I'm gonna do it about being a clown. So I reached out to you, but you were busy. And so I decided to learn how to do clown makeup. And I had to like write a poem where like whatever poem we did, we had to do it where we were teaching people how to do the steps of the thing artistically. So I don't know how to do clown makeup. I watched a video. Let me, let me know if I'm on the mark or not. Oops, sorry, like pun not intended, but but also maybe intended a little bit. Let me know how I do with this, Mark. Okay.
You got it. You got it. Let's go.
It was called Serious Business.
Okay.
I say my last words as I wipe my real face dry in efforts to have a clean slate for the new one about to come. And then I reach for the lightest, whitest makeup, rubbing in the highlights of my new features, focusing on my eyes, the contours of my cheeks, and the outer areas of my lips. I am careful to remember to pat my face after the rubbing. I want no fingerprints to be shown, no trace of my true identity. I sharpen up the lines before picking up my powder-filled sock, sprinkling on the generous layer before using a shaving brush to remove the excess traces. I'm disappearing slowly, and my alter ego arrives at the same pace. Next is the almost flesh tone covering, finger painting it on the same way, bringing this color to the edge of the first color applied. The canvas cannot peek out. The layer two is followed by dabs, making for a uniform texture. But before the next round of powder, we together add and blend the reds and blues to make cheeks pop, the facial lines stand out. The closer I get to finishing, the more silent and small I become, the more vibrant and exaggerated she becomes. I leave behind and welcome this new soul for the enjoyment of others. After this round of powder and brushing, she puts the red on her bottom lip, never the top, and then outlines the new lip and draws eyebrows and lashes I've never had, but that she thrives in. The giant and minute details are her forte. Knowing her attentive, intense skill means the difference between me and she, between the amateur and the professional, and the difference between adoration and lifelong terror. And when done burying me under the layers, she tucks my locks under the skull cap and dons her bright teal wig that perfectly matches the rest of her friendly attire. She grabs 7 of her prop balls and her favorite hula hoop and stands in the wings of the single ring, watching the children of all ages from 1 to 100 pour in and fill in their seats. And she focuses in intently on the craft of being funny.
All right. Yes.
Did I capture the spirit of that moment?
Oh, yeah. And that's 7 balls. That's impressive. Folks, if you don't have 7 balls, that's not easy to juggle. I'm just going to put that out there.
I can't juggle 1.
If you're going to dream, you got to dream big. Yeah, let's go for 7. Let's go.
I can't handle 1 ball. Forget 2. Poetic license.
Yeah. Good for you. That was great.
There's like a 1980s video of like how to be a clown or how to be in the circus by Ringling Brothers that I had to find on YouTube. And I was like, and they did this whole lesson on how to put the makeup on. I was like, okay, we're gonna go with that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
So you co-signed that. It gave the right. Is that how it feels for you when you get ready to go out there? I know you're doing different type of makeup. You're doing different stuff.
Yeah.
Time period.
Yeah. No, I mean, the evolution of what I look like as a clown is a story on its own. You know, I did start that way, as you were describing, with like the big features and the powder sock, and as my life as a clown moved on, I started taking off more and more makeup. Just because, well, first of all, I hated putting on makeup as a thing, and second of all, I guess my work is a little more intimate these days. So, you know, when you're on like Ringling Brothers Circus, you're in a giant arena like Madison Square Garden or something. So it dawns purpose for if you need to make your features stand out to the last row in a giant arena like so. So that makes sense. And, you know, there's lots of philosophical points of view to what it means to be a clown and become a clown and who you are as a clown. The philosophy that I kind of latch onto is your clown is kind of a heightened version of yourself. So you're not necessarily putting on a different persona or becoming somebody else. You're becoming a more heightened version of yourself. And depending on the venue, is how high you're going to turn that volume up. So in other words, if you're in an arena, you're going to turn it up to 50. So Eddie Van Halen, you can hear his guitar shredding in the back row. But if you're in a library or a small venue, you don't want to play, through a loud amplifier. You're going to play your small acoustic set. So that's where kind of my kind of philosophy comes when I'm putting on less makeup and being a little more intimate and vulnerable with the kind of work that I've been doing. God, that sounds like a lot of.
No, I mean, so because people who don't know you, let's wind this back for half a second. You have been at Ringlings, which is the 3-ring giant circus. You have been, and I first saw you performing at Big Apple, right? And you did Cirque too, right?
Yeah, so my mom would want me to tell you that I'm the first and only clown to have finished the trifecta of circus, which means those 3 ones, which is Ringling, Big Apple, and Cirque du Soleil. Other artists and technical people, managers and whatnot, have done that trifecta, but I'm the first and only clown to have, and I think that's because of what we learned at SUNY Purchase, because we're actors as well, and so we can shape our work to fit the venue that we're going to be in, so
that's pretty dope though. Just gotta put that out there, like, don't make that small. That's pretty dope.
Thanks between you and my mom, it's pretty awesome.
I mean, like, I'm excited. I don't know. I'm like super. I'm blushing over here. I don't know about.
You're the sweetest. You're the
I'm
sweetest.
so excited.
I did send you a $20 bill before we came on. So you're supposed to be kind to me. It's in your Venmo.
I will always be kind to you, whether I got.
No, seriously, folks. Everybody who's watching this, you should know that I see you every time I look out in the audience. I feel like you're there, like you're there, like at the New Year's celebration, right? Did I see you at a New Year's once? Yep. And we did that. We did Big Apple Circus as a New Year's show, and yeah, I just feel like a happy hour show, right? You would come to a happy hours, yeah. Those guys.
I love the happy hours.
Thanks. Yeah.
Wingman, if I could be there, I would be there. Like, I think I was upset that I didn't make it to the last thing, but it was a little bit too far away.
Yeah.
But if I can be there, I'm going to be there.
You're the greatest.
I clearly couldn't be there if I wasn't there.
I know it.
That's the thing.
I know.
I'm like huge Mark fan, but so you started saying something. I want to go back to that. You were saying, and I should have written this down. I'm such a bad host. You were saying there's different like theories about clowning, or you were getting to something technical, like you were getting into something about.
Yeah, sure. Gosh, so lots of people take clowning classes, like it's part of curriculums, acting curriculums, and like Yale and Neighborhood Playhouse, and like all these places that offer really reputable acting programs. And depending upon who's teaching it, I would suggest there's different paths to the top of the mountain, being a great clown or being a great actor. And some people think, I'm just going to rattle off some BS. Some people think that you work from the outside in. In other words, you learn a whole bunch of physical abilities, and then your clown kind of finds itself from doing all these physical things. Some teachers think it's the other way around. It's from the inside out. So if you can like almost really look at yourself in a mirror and work on your persona, that other stuff comes about. Also, other attitudes like the joke comes before the character persona, and some people think it's the other way around. The persona comes before the joke. I'm kind of in the camp of they kind of all come together at the same time. In other words, a well-balanced clown, well, it's like having 2 suitcases. In one suitcase is your clown persona and who you are, and the other suitcase is your bits and your physical attributes. And if one is like heavier than the other one, then you're not a well-balanced clown. I don't think you want to see the seams of a clown or a performer in general. So yeah, lots of different paths to the top of the mountain. Some people, there's a whole school of thought that when you play a character or a clown character or a character in general, you're a different person. You have a different name, you come from a different background, all these things. And I come from the just kind of point of view that every time I play a character, whether it's a clown or in a play or a film or whatever, there's a piece of me. And whatever that piece of me I can pull out in that moment to make it as honest and genuine as possible. Truth, I think, is always going to shine more than what's the thing I can do that's funny? Like, no one's going to care about that. It's going to come from truth, and my humble opinion.
I think I gotta say, having watched you all these years, I think that's the thing that resonates the most. Like, we want to see the main character you've been building all this time win.
Boom.
We want to watch him win. We want to watch him develop that self-esteem or get the girl or whatever project he's going after. We want to see him get that thing. And I think it doesn't matter what he's doing. It's just, he's gonna get there. I think that's true.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's when we start talking into the clowns that we all didn't know were clowns or are actual clowns, like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. For me, they are clowns. They're physical comedians. And it's the hero's journey, right? We're cheering for them, or rooting them on to accomplish the thing. And the comedy is the failure along the way. So
would you, now that you, okay, I had like 5 questions in my head and none of them are coming out in full sentences.
And I've got 24 answers. So between the two of us, we'll come up with something.
I was thinking about that. And especially like when you're talking about like Charlie Chaplin, and like, would you think of him tied to like the Commedia dell'arte, like history of clowning? And, like.
Yeah, I think we're all vessels of each other's. In other words, the people that have come before me, if I'm really listening, I'm absorbing them, and then they're going through me, and then the people that are going to come after me are going to be just channel of what came, before me. So, yeah, I think we're just all channels of that, for sure. And for the people who are afraid of clowns, for me, there's not much difference between clowns and, let's say, a stand-up comedian. And I feel like here's the thin line that it comes from. When you're watching a stand-up comedian, you're laughing at them anecdotally. In other words, they're telling you a story or a thing that really upsets them, or something that is either past, present, or future, right? If you're watching a clown, you're laughing at them in the moment of what's happening to them right then. It's not a story. They may be telling a story, but the comedy is what's happening to them in the moment. So like Steve Martin and Martin Short and Jack Black and Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, all those people who were laughing at them in the moment by the stupid things that they're getting themselves into, they're clowns to me. And it's whatever whatever volume they're turning up and down. If you put them in a circus ring, I bet would be much bigger than when you're putting them in front of a TV screen or a movie screen. Their volume is much more intimate because you're in front of a camera. So
it's funny. I've been watching a lot of older shows. And I haven't been watching in the last few weeks, but for the last few months, I've been watching a lot of older shows because there's a channel called Rewind, and there's a different channel, Antenna TV, and both of them are like playing old shows from like our childhood. And I was watching a lot of Three's Company, and I did not appreciate the physical comedy that is in that show until recently, and I was like, whoa.
Jack Tripper or John Ritter, like there's like a go-to scene. If you haven't seen this scene, like YouTube this scene, folks, there's a scene where he's at a a wedding, and he gets really super drunk, and he gets more and more and more drunk, and as he's getting more and more drunk, he gets more and more slapsticky comedy silliness, and it's him essentially doing this nonverbal bit for like 2 minutes, and it's genius. Like, I remember seeing that as a kid and going, that's funny. I loved him. And Three Company and John Ritter, and particularly for me, he's a clown for sure.
Yeah, like as I watch it now, it's like, whoa, this is like complete physical comedy. And I would have never really tied it to clowning, but it absolutely, like, I just never thought about it until like very recently. I was like, oh my goodness, the amount of physical work that these people were doing, especially him, was just like like just mind blowing.
Yeah. And the people that I really admire as clowns, or the people that can really tell a story non-verbally, or make you laugh non-verbally, is all kind of the same thing, where the words are not as important at what's happening in the moment to them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, John Ritter is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh goodness. Okay. So I like, you've gotten to none of my standard questions. I love this. Yeah. I love this conversation.
Episode 2.
I'm serious. I'm loving speaking to you. Like, I don't, again, I'm excited.
mutual love.
So something beautiful about your community. Tell me something beautiful about your community.
Oh man. So if we're talking about the circus and clown community, so as I alluded to before, you become a family, because you're with each other 24/7. And the what they call the back lot, where it's kind of where all the trailers are parked when you're at the circus, and you're having barbecues, and you're sharing recipes and food and tastes from other people's communities from all over the world, and you're sharing that. That's one of the most things I miss about the circus right now, that kind of sharing of that. The other thing that's so wonderful about the circus community, and that you don't necessarily find from the acting community, is the level of, so the most jobs that the biggest jobs that I've gotten in the circus community, or the circus world, is as a referral. So in other words, like, I don't have to, it sounds kind of obnoxious, but I don't really audition so much anymore for the circus, because, hey, if I can't do it, let me call up this person. I bet you that person can do it. It's great. Oh, great. And then they come in and they do a great job. And so it's all kind of like this referral thing, rather than this kind of like competition thing where you go into a casting and there's like 17 other yous. You're like, oh man, look at all these short Jews in New York with glasses. Oh my God. And so like, it's that feeling of like, is he going to get it? Is he going to get it? It's not like, it doesn't really feel that way in the circus clown world, where it's like, it's more of, I say it to every time I refer a thing, or someone refers me to a thing. So it's all clowns got to stick together, So yeah, that's what's most most romantic about the clown and circus community.
So I have to tell you, I was looking for a job one day, or not one day, but I was applying for a job with one of your former employers before everything changed with them. And that led to a conversation with the executive director, who ultimately led me into dinner with Paul Binder. When I got an email that introduced me to Paul Binder, I darn near crashed my pants and was like, how do I not lose my ever-loving mind? It's just like being in the email with this man. And then I had dinner with him. And it was so amazing speaking with him, because the first circus that I remember going to was actually Big Apple. And it was one of the very few times, if any, other than this one time, that they actually were in the Bronx. And so there's a Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, and they were on the Great Lawn. And I was like, there's a circus in my backyard. because I would always go to Van Cortlandt Park as a kid, and like it was in my backyard, and I still have the program. I still can't find the one that you signed for me. I don't know. I'm like still very upset about that.
We have to fix that.
I know. I'm just like, where is this one? But like I was like, I still have that. It was a big yellow program from a long time ago. From Big Apple Circus. And so he and I talked about the founding of the Big Apple Circus. I mean, the Big Apple Circus is like in its original incarnation, a year or two older than me. And so he talked about the founding of it, and it talks to like that same exact thing of your first point about it being a place of like, it was, what's the gentleman's name that he founded it with? Now my brain's not going to do.
Michael Christensen.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. So the two of them really trying to make the world, like make the vision of the world that they saw through the circuit. Like that's wild. And it's like hearing you say that, and like everyone having sharing the meals and sharing the experience, like that's
what it's at. So people don't know what the Big Apple Circus is and what they were about. So in 75, 77, something like this, these two guys were juggling partners, and they're like, hey, let's just start a circus in the United States. And they had these models from European circus models, which are these not giant circuses with 3 rings. They're these intimate 1-ring tents, maybe 1,000 seats. So it's intimate. You could see the person, the last person in each row from across each other. And so they started this show with just a bunch of their friends. And then it just gradually became this New York staple that eventually landed in Lincoln Center. They tore the East Coast as far down back in the day in Atlanta, and as far north back in the days like New Hampshire. But the home was Lincoln Center in New York, which for circus artists and people that grew up in New York, grew up going to the Big Apple Circus like you and I did, like it's the dream job for circus, particularly for clowns, because it's intimate. You get to you get to do work that feels like it means something, rather than just like throwing it out in the internet, in the ethernet of an arena, and hopefully it lands on somebody. You can actually make eye contact with people and feel like you're having a conversation. So the sound that, to hear that you're so affected, it's because of that hard work that they did in making it feel like that you're in their living room, and it's a New York thing. Back in the day, people went to like the Met, they went to the ballet, and they went to the Big Apple Circus.
Yeah, I mean,
like it was as heightened as that.
So technically, it is 2 years older than me, as it started in 1977. So I just gave out my year of birth, but that's okay. And they, and it was a nonprofit until it closed. What was it, in 16 or something like that? No, earlier than that. Was it? Somewhere.
I'm so bad with dates. Something.
Yeah,
like that.
It closed. It closed a couple of years ago, and then opened up again, as a for-profit. But it had the vaudeville troupe. It had, so they would go into nursing homes like that. So that was the thing that I loved about it, and so I love the circus, period. And I was so happy when Universal opened, because I love seeing my community on even the street. Like the first years, they had like street signs that were like things that I recognized, and having Casual Cal and the other gentleman as the ringmasters and such, like that was like, and the music being mine, and just like all of that was so like, yes, these are my people, and that was really dope. But like there was still, when I was, so the second time I was in grad school, I got my second master's in public administration, and one of the classes I took was arts, nonprofit arts. And so I ended up doing a whole paper on Big Apple Circus, because somehow I landed on finding out they were a nonprofit. And I was like, oh, what? Yeah. They're a nonprofit? And I was like, well, that's my favorite circus now. And that became I became a member immediately once I found that out.
Yeah.
And I was like, donate every year. Like, you got my money. I'm here.
Oh
I'm in this
man.
because of all the programming that was also part of it. It was the Circus of the Senses
The
that were
Circus of the
there.
Senses.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
all of that it used to do. And unfortunately, we also in my conversation talked about why we didn't know then when I had dinner with him that he may have known, but it wasn't closing yet officially.
Mm-hmm.
But he may have known. Given the tone of that conversation, it sort of implied that he may have known. And that just wasn't public conversation yet. But you know, I understand what was happening a little bit behind the scenes as to why financially it did not sustain
Yeah.
itself, and that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not the same since it's come back, but it's still nice to see the brand exist.
Yeah.
And I really hope the Wallendas continue. I mean, the Wallendas is a power name of the circus too, so hopefully they'll continue the legacy.
Yep.
I was not happy with New Year's Eve this year, but that's my own little beef. And I made it clear with I was all over the socials like, hello,
Yeah.
y'all messed up New Year's Eve. Y'all
Yeah.
y'all screwed the pooch on New Year's Eve.
Was
But
it was it the experience of New Year's Eve, or was it the show in general, or is it a little bit of both?
it was the experience. The show was fine. The show
Okay.
was fine, but it was the miscommunication that nothing was happening. It
Okay.
was really like 11:45, show's over, go home.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
No acknowledgement that there was no countdown, no nothing. It was shut down, done.
Wow.
And it's fine that, it's still COVID and this is what it is, but there was no even verbal
Communication about it.
announcement of that. And no one
Bummer.
just comes to the 9:30 show on New Year's Eve.
Right.
No one just
Yeah.
goes to that show for no reason.
Especially with the track record of the expectation of what it's been before. Yeah, sure, it's
Exactly.
tricky.
So I get that we're not going to dance. I get that we're not going to do the whole thing, but at least count down and send us off. Like,
Yeah.
we
Right.
were in the middle of the street, like, where we go now? And just like,
Right. Right.
and then it was a cloudy night, so we didn't even see the fireworks that we would normally
Right.
see too. So I'm just like, what? It was a whole disappointment that there was just no communication.
Right.
But I do hope, I mean, it's such a legacy. I hope they can continue it. I hope they are successful because it's such a history
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's like a family to me, and yeah, it's a place where I grew up, and no matter what, I hope it's whoever's leading the march. I hope it lasts forever.
Yeah, I mean, I will still keep going. I just won't go at 9:30 if you're not going to do something. I will go every year, but I will not go at 9:30 on New Year's Eve if you're not going to do something for New Year's Eve.
I think that's fair.
Warn me. It's not worth it at that night then. But yeah, so something that frustrates you then about the circus, is there anything, or about the process, about something that's frustrating that's happened?
Sure. I mean, anything that's really important to you will frustrate you because it's important to you. We can nitpick about it and chop it up, but it's like with this. It's like when someone goes sees a movie and they're like, that movie was horrible, and you're like, well, okay, you didn't like it, that's cool, but you know how much work went into that thing? You know what I mean? It's like, and you're just gonna be like, no, forget it. So I feel like we just, everything, when I look at people who put it out there, it's just about celebrating it no matter where it is in that moment. And but yeah, I mean, complain about some of the living conditions, some of what people are paid, the diversity that we have to do a better job at, all these things that are important and we should address. But for me, we're just lucky that it's happening at all, especially in like COVID time. It's like everything shuts down. Where are we all going to go? Where are all these artists going to find work now?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I'm glad to see okay, I'm kind of lying. I'm mixed to see Ringling, the brand, come back. Um, and it was partially something you said, and it was not against Ringlings. I've been going to Ringlings my entire life. You know, it was always too big. That's why it was never my favorite. It was too big. It's sensory overload. I don't read menus at restaurants because it's too many options. Like I look for the thing that's familiar and I'm done. If I can't sit somewhere in the center, I can't pay attention because there's too many places to look at Ringlings. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
enjoy Ringlings. I cried. I went to like two of the last shows when it was like the end of the show. The first time I went, I wasn't supposed to go a second time. I lucked out and got second tickets, which are actually better tickets. But the first time I went, I was with my mom. And as they were saying bye, I'm like in tears. I'm like, it's the end of this. Like sobbing mess.
Yeah.
But so like I'm like ridiculous circus freak, right? Fan,
Yeah.
you know. But like I also it's too sensory overload for me. So it
Yeah.
was never like my favorite one. And then they also started when the smaller houses started doing better. You could see where they were sort of copying what the smaller places were doing, and that was a
Yep.
little annoying. I was like, you can't just take what they did, you know, like
Right.
kind of feels about it. But like but I'm happy to see the name exist again, and that's returning. And so, but like it's hard for like performance arts with people. It's hard to get people to show up to these things now. It's hard to get people to have that attention span. And then like, I think, you know, is America really the place for, we're not the place that's fostering those type of like skills. So like where you say diversity, we're not the country that's like, this is like, unless you're doing gymnastics, we're not really a place that's fostering those skills that you see in the circus, really. Like, so I would love to see diversity, but then how do you do it? Because like again, I would have loved to be the person in the circus with the hula hoop, but I wouldn't even know where to have started. So like, how do you even get that? You have, and that's, these are lifelong family careers. So then
Yeah.
how do you that problem?
Yeah, what's happening in this circus is there's an evolution, a shift that's happening right now. Back in the day, it used to be families, and there's still families out there like the Melendez and other families that I could rattle off that would mean nothing to your listeners, but that you would learn that craft from your father, and they learned it from their father, and so on. So it's just kind of passed down through generations and generations. What's happening now is there's circus schools all over the world. And there are circus schools in the United States right now that you can go and there's a program. It's in Philadelphia, and they're going to kill me for not remembering their name. Circadia is their name. And you can do you can get a degree in the circus arts. Yeah, it's truth. Look it up. And yeah. So it's because similar to like back in the day when the Ringling Brothers Circus is a clown college, Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Clown College came about because the older generations of clowns were dying out. So Irving Feld, the owner of the circus, was like, well, we need to be able to figure out how we can train people to do those things. So he made Clown College to bridge that gap. And that's essentially what's happening now, where the families are dying out somewhat. It's not fair. They're not dying out. It's just there's less.
The legacy is just changing.
Legacy is changing. Yeah. Thank you. So now there are proper circus schools that you can train and learn a craft and do that thing in the circus. Perfect example is Cirque du Soleil does that. They have a school up in Montreal, and they go to the graduating class every year, and they poach from that graduating class, and yeah.
So what you're saying to me is that I'm too old now, but had I known,
there's still hope. There's still hope. Get the hula hoop, girl. Get it.
Okay.
Some poetry. Get that hoop going. Get the vaudeville circuit going. Done.
There we go. Okay. There's hope for me. I can get I can be the poeting hula hoop fist.
It's never too late to ruin your life.
So I'm not even gonna touch that one. I don't think being in the circus can ruin your life. I hear you.
No, I'm
but I
teasing.
know.
You know,
I know.
it's not an easy life, right? It's
No, not at all. I imagine.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, what I loved is, and I never got to watch the full PBS special that they did on Big Apple, and or really Paul Binder as he was exiting. But there was that one part about the woman's hands, who was like a trapeze artist or something, and just showing like how difficult the craft is, and the burden of it on bodies that we don't even think about, you know. So, and I mean, very random, but I remember the first time I saw one of your acts, and I was like, Mark looks like that. And I was like,
Mark looks like that.
I was like, that's what clowns look like under their outfits. Like, because you were very muscular, and I was very surprised. And I was like, they're not all soft and fluffy, because that's not what clowns.
We're all made out of rubber. Yeah.
They put some work into this. And then I've also seen you hang from stuff, but I was like, okay, so there's a whole work to the work that y'all do, depending what type of work you guys do, because not every clown does the same type of work. So
there's all
it's
shapes
also
and sizes,
all of that.
right.
So that's
Right.
My goodness. So is there a unique fact that you're willing to share about the community that you can think of? Or
A unique fact.
Yeah.
Gosh, man.
I mean, you've given us a lot of information from the past.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if there's any other facts you can think of.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have one of those. Unless you have something a little more specific that I can grab on.
So then,
okay.
How about, do you have a fun fact about yourself? Tied to clowning or not?
A fun fact about myself. Fun fact. Oh God, it's funny. It's like, people ask me to do their podcast, and I'm like the worst person about talking about myself, because it's like I'm always like, tell me about you. I always find other people more interesting than me. So, an interesting fact about me is like, it's like a helicopter view of yourself, being like, oh, that's interesting, and I'm just like, I'm looking at the top of my head, going, I see a bald spot. That's cool. Let's keep going. I don't have a bald spot for this, but maybe will when I'm 50. Anyway, what are we talking about? This is editing. This is going to be edited out. When I asked you earlier, you're like, nah, there won't be editing. Yeah, there's going to be editing.
Fun. So much fun. This is your personality. So this is the fun fact about Mark, is that he is hilarious, and he is like a great, genuine person. You may not know that if you saw him doing. I mean, you would think he's a fun, great, genuine person if you were watching him do his. Does your character even have a name? That's a good question. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, going back to what we're talking about, it's just a heightened version of me, so it's just Mark.
Is that really? Is that really the character?
That's it. When I was on the Big Apple Circus, it was just Mark. When I was on Cirque du Soleil, it was a bit different, because it was kind of straddling the lines of acting and clowning, because the show that I was in called Amaluna, which was loosely based on The Tempest by Shakespeare. And I mean loosely. So I played a character. It doesn't really matter, but I stole a character from Shakespeare to make it more genuine, which was Uric. So that was his name. That character makes no sense.
I was gonna ask you, because I actually did write a note down. I'm glad you got here, because I was gonna ask you about that. If it is a heightened version of yourself, how was it doing Cirques and Circus, such as different? So, like, I can't describe. If you're not watching the podcast right now, go look at my page and see the picture of Mark to get an idea of what Mark looks like. But like, Mark is just your average looking guy, glasses, white guy, button down shirt, just like your average guy. You wouldn't notice him if you were walking down the street with him. He's very unassuming and in all the good normal ways, right? His character is always like this little dorky dude trying to like get the girl, or trying to like get the be the cool guy. So he always like has that voiceover that's telling him how to do it. And he's always into these random moments and characteristics when he's doing the Wingman show. And then he has this other troupe, Happy Hour, with two other dynamic clowns that they do other stuff together. But it's still like this other same version. You sort of still see Mark showing up, but it's still like Mark heightened. Exactly that, like in the big suit, still Mark. Cirque has a very different look. Cirque is probably of like, if you guys, and I can't describe because I'm not the person, but in the history of like circus, like circus clowning acts, commedia dell'arte. Oh, does it not sound like that?
Yeah, okay.
It's like really sort of the beginning ideas of the different personas of it. So if you've ever seen like those really skinny looking figures that look distorted, sort of, that look very graceful, that's sort of what you're looking at when you're talking about the original looking characters of clowning. And that's what you're looking at when you're looking at Cirque to some extent. That's sort of where Cirque is tied to. So it's a very different looking style than what you have shown up as. That all said, how was that heightening yourself and in a totally different style of performance?
Yeah. So again, it's just coming from the truth of who I am and why I landed on that particular show. So you're right in terms of, I tell the story of kind of how did I find my clown character? Who am I? You know, because as a clown, we don't know. When we're first starting out, we're just kind of like trying to emulate other people. And this is the way this is the evolution of where I landed, and kind of what you described, and it'll make more sense once we land into Cirque land. In my 20s, I was dating a personal trainer and dancer, and I had never gone to the gym at that point in my life. Yes, I did martial arts, but I never lifted a weight, like unless it was in the way, I'd push it out, you know. So I was like, I guess I should start working out. That's what we do, you know, as a kind of like a bonding thing, you know. And so I started working out, and then maybe this is what you were alluding to before, is that I started looking weird. Like I started like my body, like I'm 5'4". It should not be that muscular. It like, yeah. And I remember being at the gym and seeing this 6'4" dude who had like his muscles had muscles. He was just gigantic. And I went up to him. I said, "Hey, how could I look more like you?" And because that's what, you know, so that's what I'm chasing, you know, I want to get bigger and buffer and everything. And he put his arm around me and pointed me towards the mirror. He said, you see you in the mirror? I said, yep. You see me? Yep. You're never going to look like me. And at that moment, like, it sounds like a heart crushing moment where it was like, well, screw you, dude. Who are you to say I'm not going to look like you? But what he's saying is, I'm 5'4". I've got very thin bones. I'm not going to be 6'4" with my muscles having muscles. It's just not going to happen. And in that moment, I mean, not in the moment, but self-reflection, I'm like, wait a minute, that's my clown. The little guy wanting to be that guy.
Mm.
So that's kind of where all that stuff comes from. Whereas I want to try to get the girl, or I want to try to succeed like a rock star, or a guy that's challenging his body in a physical way. Like, so that's kind of the great thing about being a clown. You can be all those things. You can try to be all those things. I love to dance. I'm not a dancer, but I try to dance. And therefore the struggle of seeing me dance is the comedy. Anyway, what I'm getting at is when I did the Cirque gig is, so the show was already going for a couple of years, and they had a clown. So like I said, it was about the Tempest, and it was the entire cast was women, and it was a desert island full of female circus performers. And a ship crashes on this island, and it's a bunch of circus dudes. And it's about, all the love, unrequited loves. And the guy that they had performing as the clown that I was replacing was kind of like this rape and pillage kind of clown. And with a show about women empowerment, and you've got this guy on there, it wasn't working for obvious reasons. So they kind of went back to the drawing board with the artistic director, and we're like, we need this character to be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more naivete. And then that's when they kind of circled back towards me and was like, well, that's who I am. That's my inner truth. And no matter what costume you put on me and what makeup and grotesque circus stuff you're going to put on top of me, I'm still that, naive, genuine, neurotic little man who doesn't want to piss anybody off inside. So that's how I got that Cirque du Soleil job, where even though you're putting on this costume, my truth is that thing. My truth is the vulnerable.
Wow. So was being in Cirque, was that a stretch for you? Did that grow you as well? Did you come back the same or different? Because it is a different type of,
so it's always been a dream of mine, as a young circus clown and actor, to be in Cirque du Soleil. And that's a really good question. Yes, of course, I learned stuff and grew as an artist. And I kind of tell this story to young people that are just kind of starting out in terms of circus and variety arts. I feel like there's 3 different kinds of jobs. There's the kind of jobs that you do for the love of it, that you're like, I love doing this thing. I'm going to be with my 2 best buddies, making a thing. Maybe we'll make a little bit of money, but we're never going to make money. We just love doing it. The other jobs are you make money. You're going to do this, you're going to save some money, and it's going to be great. Then there's that medium in between job that's once in a blue moon, that is artistically gratifying, that you're not necessarily doing for money, and you're also doing money. You're making money at the same time, saving money. Maybe that's happened to me twice, 3 times, maybe. But for the most part, you're chasing that thing, and when it comes around, you kind of hang on to it, grab onto it.
So the Cirque was that thing?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, I like to make stuff. One of my loves is making comedy and making work. And one of the reasons why Cirque was a good fit in that moment was they had to rewrite the comedy, they had to rethink it, and I had to fix those puzzle pieces, help them fix those puzzle pieces. I get a real thrill out of that. So when that part of the job starts to be done, then I get a little antsy and being like, hey, where can I do that thing again? So yeah, would I have stayed longer? Maybe, but then there's other opportunities that come along, and you're weigh out your should I stay here? Should I go there? And at the moment, it made sense to leave and go back to Big Apple and be back home. When I was in Amaluna, Cirque du Soleil, I was touring South America. So I was off the map. My friends and family did not see me. And that's hard, and so landing back at Big Apple Circus just seemed to be a nice fit in that moment. So would I go back to Cirque du Soleil? Yeah, in a heartbeat. If you're listening, Cirque du Soleil, I'm available. After this little podcast that we're doing, I've got my whole books cleared. I'd go back in a heartbeat. Yeah, it was definitely a sweet gig. They treat you right. The community's great. So yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to sit with that one for a little while. As you're saying this, I'm like, what show or what theater show have I done, or what company have I worked with, and theatrically, or even what what like even poetry moment have I had that is that?
Well, what I'm getting out too is it's necessarily like that in the poetry world or theater world. For example, like when I go do a commercial and you work for one day, like then you get those residual checks and it pays your whole year. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that wasn't artistically gratifying. You gotta stand in a spot. You gotta deliver the lines the way the product manager wants you to deliver. No, it's not artistically gratifying. It's very
That's
rare that
true.
that's artistically gratifying. So yeah.
I have to say though that I, as much as like it was a grind to have done one of these school things, it was actually probably one of the most rewarding moments where
Yeah.
it was great to have worked with some students as
Yeah.
a poet and to share my craft, to talk about some of the
Yes.
nuances around the craft, and then simultaneously also be paid nicely. So like that was one day that I was like, man, I should be doing this. Like that was that was a moment that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um that moment did not return, but that's okay.
But it will. But it
Well,
will.
it will.
Like
It
it's a
will.
long journey.
It will. And I think those are definitely because I like teaching poetry. I realized I do enjoy teaching it, but I'd have to go on a different level to get to that point. But like I do, like I'm just as you're describing that, I'm like there are those moments where it's like, no, this is the right like that. So there's that sweet spot. So yay for Cirque, and hopefully
Yeah.
they listen to this.
You know. But and I look at it like waves, like a surfer, those waves come in and you're gonna ride and then they're gonna go away.
Yeah,
And if you're a real surfer, you're gonna hang out until those waves come back and you're gonna ride those waves again. It's a career. As an artist, it's not, we're not all gonna get a Marvel movie and then not have to work the rest of our lives.
I mean that's the great and adventurous part of being an artist generally, right? Like no matter what form of art you're doing, it's going to be that exact ebb and flow. There's been some theaters that I have been in behind like, and I mean mostly after purchase I mostly ended up teching because I didn't, I mean by the time I got to purchase I knew I didn't want to act anymore, so I gave up acting. And every project I was like I'll be the director. I like threw my hand up to direct. And but even when I got out and I did one big show as director and I was like, y'all ain't paying me enough, it's not enough time, like I'm tired, this is a lot of energy. And even though I enjoyed it, I this is and I have a skill for it, I'm not the most skilled for it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can be a tech, tell me where to press buttons, I enjoy the booth, I'm good in the booth, just don't make me climb a ladder, I'm fine. Like, and I enjoy directing, I actually really do enjoy directing, but like if you're not paying me properly, that's a lot of labor
Yeah.
for not being paid correctly for that work.
I hear you. I hear you.
But so like I essentially don't do theater anymore after that show because I do it when a friend says, hey Dar, and I go, I got you.
Yeah.
But like it's gotta be the right people saying, hey Dar, and I'm like, it don't even matter what the price is, I got you. If my schedule's free, I got you. Otherwise, you don't see me in a booth, you don't see me doing anything. But like it's the ebb and flow of like some of those shows come and you're like, or any of those opportunities come and be like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. And then next time you don't know when the next one's coming. And that's also the adventure of it all.
Yeah, I feel like we're in that stage of our lives where it's just like I just want to be around people that I enjoy being around. Do you know? And the money and that kind of stuff is kind of secondary. I just want to be around people that positively affect me and I positively affect them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why do this really freaking hard, impossible thing?
Yes, I hear you on that. So I'm almost down to my last few questions. How do we, I'm just trying to make sure I've covered because I jumped around out of order, but that's cool. We've covered everything. So how do we support your community? Like, what do we do if we want to support your community?
How do our listeners and viewers support our community?
But if we're not so terrified, if we've overcome our fear of crime.
Yeah. go to a show. I know it's the COVID thing is uncomfortable for some people because we don't want to be around humans. I'm kind of the same way, to be honest. But the temptation of TikTok and YouTube and whatever else is on your mobile device, just kind of put it down for a hot second and go see a show and go laugh together, go feel together. A good clown's going to make you have some feels, not just ha ha ha, that's hilarious, but actually, like, you're going to leave going, wow, I feel my DNA's changed a little bit. Hopefully you're going to be affected by that great clown. So yeah, go see a show.
So to add on that, thank you for that. So I have a friend who has this whole religious thing with like 24. And then I realized that, and I can't get into her religious thing because it's not my religious thing, but then I realized that I have a religious thing with the circus. And I sat there and I was like, the circus is a group of people who received a calling to go do something that seems impossible. And they kept doing it and made it possible. Like, how many of us are not listening to our callings and are not doing it? And here's a whole bunch of people doing their calling. And every time I go to the circus, I've gone to the circus. Like, there was that one year, the year that I saw you twice, I went to 7 different circus shows that year. Like, I mean, between clowning shows that were just like private little like things, and like Shashama shows and, like big shows, 7 different shows that year. It was insanity. I would love to do it again. But I sat there there's things I've seen all the time. Like, some things are like, you cannot show me something that, like, yes, I've seen that. I've seen that. And yes, I've seen that. Yes, I expect that. And then without fail, there is at least one thing I have never seen before. There's always that one thing that I was like, oh, I've never seen that. Mm-hmm. And it just completely, like, without fail, every year it's probably like 2 or 3 things I've never seen before. But for someone who goes to the circus every year to sit there and still go, oh, I've never seen that before, Yeah. And again, there's these people who are showing us that things that we thought were impossible are possible. Like, you can't get that just by watching it on a screen. You can't get that by like just doing all these other things. Like, these are people who are dedicating their bodies and time and energy and skill to a calling that is like, that we didn't even think was possible. I didn't know you could do hula hooping and a ring, and that's like a thing, and that's a career. That's, oh my gosh, it's a skill that someone's been hired for, and like, they're traveling the world doing this, Yeah. And I think I support the circus arts, support clowns. They're not all scary. Trust me. You just listen to like one of the coolest ones out there.
I appreciate that. And I think lots of circus performers appreciate that. And I think artists appreciate that. Because I think, particularly in the performing arts, but probably in all the arts, in a live performance, what happens is it's in a good one, there's communication happening. A conversation is happening between the audience and the performer. Now imagine the performer has no audience, right? Like, you can't have that conversation. And so in order to have that conversation, to have that performance be what it's supposed to be, you need an audience. And I think that goes for any kind of performing arts.
So go support and be in their audience. And that said, how do people find you, Mark?
How do you find me? I live at Fort. No.
Please no, because I'm gonna be the first one. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go find you right now.
Who's that outside my window with those bags? Come on in. I got a website. There it is. I got a website, markindick.com. I've got a YouTube page, comedybodegaNYC.com. That's how you can find me. YouTube, Instagram.
Can I tell you?
All over the place.
I just found a thank you letter from you.
Oh, you did?
When you did a solicitation like in 2013 or something.
Probably.
I was going through I was doing some cleaning this weekend and I had some old letters and I was like, I should keep this letter and read it to you. I kept it, but I didn't keep it in a place that I can grab it right now.
Was it from Wingman? Did you must have donated to Wingman? Yeah. Oh man.
So
well, thanks again for your generous donation of $1 million.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some of that back now because
I've got
I still have a student loan I have to pay. This not the one that's getting forgiven, but the private loan is still sitting there. No.
Totally. I've got this really great mug. Gonna put your name on it and expect it in the mail.
So, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Mark, for being such an amazing guest, an amazing friend, and an amazing artist. Like y'all don't understand again, like if you did not watch this podcast on YouTube, which you should have done, you will have noticed that my cheeks have been red and pink this entire time. And I do not wear makeup other than the lipstick on my lips. So it is literally me just blushing from joy from chatting with Mark. It has been such a gift to chat with you. I'm so thankful you said yes.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you for just being my friend for all these years too. And just keep being great. I'm like, yay.
Thank you for you. Thank you for you.